candidate in a council election in Somerset next year has withdrawn despite being backed by the Tory leader Kemi Badenoch. Joshua Bonehill-Payne, who was jailed in 2016 after he was convicted of racially aggravated harassment of the Labour politician Luciana Berger, who's Jewish. The Conservatives have previously defended his candidacy, saying he'd been rehabilitated. Today, Kemi Badenoch said he would now be working with her and the Conservatives to tackle radicalisation. From Westminster, Joe Pike reports.
The former neo-Nazi criminal is now a former Tory council candidate, before he even contested an election. Joshua Bonehill-Payne conceded tonight to what some saw as inevitable, saying, rather than standing as a local council candidate, I believe that my experience is better used supporting Kemi Badenoch in her ongoing mission to combat the anti-Semitism and extremism that is dividing our nation. He added, I have therefore informed the party of my decision to withdraw from next year's council election, and Kemi has instead offered that I become an advisor to the Conservative Party's Culture and Integration Commission, specifically focusing on how young men become radicalised. Pressure on Mr Bonehill-Payne had been building all day, including from the Labour politician he was convicted of racially abusing in 2016. Baroness Luciana Berger said he's not fit for public office.
There's a big difference between going back into society and teaching others possibly about what you did and why it was wrong, to making the leap to standing for public office. I think there's a massive distinction there.
Joshua Bonehill-Payne has previously been convicted of falsely calling people paedophiles online.
I have absolutely no remorse for them whatsoever.
But will you be staying away from them now?
Well, of course I have to, because I've been issued with a restraining order.
Assaulting a police officer, burglary of a police station, and he spent time in prison for posting anti-Semitic material ahead of a planned neo-Nazi rally. But he says while inside, hearing of the murder of MP Jo Cox prompted a shift.
I felt an enormous sense of emotion, of grief and of anger that, this lady had been murdered by a far-right extremist. And it wasn't even the politics, it was the fact that this was a mother, a wife who had been viciously murdered in cold blood. And I started to question why it was that I was supporting a right-wing ideology.
The dark tide of anti-Semitism is again on our shores.
Since leaving prison in 2018, Bonehill-Payne says he spent years opposing extremism and training vulnerable people at risk of radicalisation. Kemi Badenoch started her day defending this controversial call.
If we can't have the people who have previously been radicalised, who understand what went wrong and are part of the fight against anti-Semitism now, if we're saying, no, you're untouchable, then how can we pretend that we believe in rehabilitation?
Tonight, she reluctantly accepted her candidate's decision, saying online, if we're going to stop extremism and anti-Semitism, we are going to need help from those people who were part of the problem, but have now changed and are being part of the solution. This case has prompted a fascinating and perhaps important debate about rehabilitation, whether people can change and what roles they could possibly fulfil if and when they do. But ultimately this row is about Kemi Badenoch's judgment. She forcefully defended her candidate and now her party has backed down pretty swiftly. It is undoubtedly a damaging episode. Joshua Bonehill-Payne was almost unknown in British politics 48 hours ago. His new advisory role means his involvement with the Conservatives continues, but his career as a candidate is now over. Joe Pike, BBC News, Westminster.
Our political correspondent Nick Eardley is in Westminster. So why did Kemi Badenoch defend him in the first place?
Well, it certainly raised a few eyebrows around Westminster, Sophie. Kemi Badenoch clearly thought that Joshua Bonehill-Payne had been rehabilitated, and that meant that he was someone who was acceptable to be a Conservative councillor. She was making that argument very publicly on the radio this morning. But I think it was the strength of feeling, particularly amongst Jewish groups, that made this position that we're in tonight inevitable. The Board of Deputies of British Jews saying that they thought his appointment was wrong and that they would refuse to meet him. One of his victims, Luciana Berger, the Labour politician, saying rehabilitation was one thing but standing for public office was another. So the Conservatives have been forced into this situation tonight. Kemi Badenoch says she's sad that Bonhill Payne won't get to represent his community. He will, though, be given that job as an advisor to her on tackling extremism, and that is already attracting some criticism tonight. Luciana Berger, one of those people who Bonhill Payne was convicted of racially harassing, has said giving him that advisory role is an insult.
Nick Eardley, thank you. A 47-year-old woman has been arrested after 4 men were stabbed.
We're speaking to Nick Eardley, our political correspondent here. Nick, tell us more.
I would urge the government
wrong to making a leap to standing for public office. I think there's a massive distinction there.
talk now about it though. Now we'll kick off for the vote.
There, and this is not.
Kemi Badenoch said this.
One of hurty words. This is a man that engaged and indulged in a sustained campaign, not just against me.
His name is Joshua Burnhill Payne. He was convicted. He went to prison. He is now apparently going to stand for your party as a councillor in Somerset. Why?
So, I did hear what Luciana had to say, and I do understand Lady Berger's position. What he did was appalling, abhorrent even. I've been in her situation. I have an ongoing case right now of people threatening to kill me. And I looked at this case very carefully. This was a judgment call. And this is someone who has served his sentence, unlike many of the people that we are releasing who've done far more serious things, killed people, raped, paedophiles, etc. But also it is about what he is doing right now. Your bulletins today talked about a huge rise in anti-Semitism. This is a man who was talking about how in his late teens and early 20s he was radicalized. He became a racist and an anti-Semite. And he is training, certified by the Home Office, training people on how to deal.
To which Lady Berger says, well, fine, let him do that, but don't have him in public life. Well, don't have him in a position where she and others might have to deal with him, talk to him, do deals with him if he's a politician. That there is a difference there between welcoming someone into public life and just saying, well, yeah, they might be a useful member of society.
Well, I think what Luciana is talking about is not rehabilitation but forgiveness. I can understand that she does not want to forgive this man. I might not if I had been his victim, but I'm not giving him a national platform. He is standing to be a councillor in Somerset.
You are giving him a platform there.
It is a local platform, looking at parking, sorting out bins. events. That's what councillors do. It's not a national platform. And I do think...
Would you draw the line as a national platform?
We have much higher thresholds for... you must have heard about this, Justin. I have much higher thresholds for what it takes to be a Conservative MP.
Well,
and
yes,
I think it is
even former cabinet ministers like Grant Shapps and people can't stand as a Conservative MP, which again leads people to think, well, hang on a second, what is it that allows you to be a representative of the Conservative Party in the public sphere, i.e. being a former neo-Nazi doesn't matter, not liking
I think
the ECHR?
Well, Andy Burnham has Louise Haigh, who is a convicted fraudster, in his cabinet. And I'm listening to Labour MPs criticise this. Margaret Burke was a neo-Nazi who stood as a Labour councillor in Milton Keynes in 2012.
Let's not talk about other people.
But why is it all right for Labour to say that, well, we can accept...
I'm not sure that it is. I'm not sure anyone's saying it is.
So that's why I'm not accepting their argument. And the difference is...
But you are saying it is all right for you.
No, I'm saying that this man is showing that he's more than contrite. He is actually working, training prevent officers, speaking universities and schools. I am extremely worried about
Joshua Bonehill says he will no longer stand in next year's council election after widespread criticism of his selection as a Conservative candidate. Now, he spent more than 3 years in prison after posting anti-Semitic material ahead of a planned neo-Nazi rally. He was also convicted of racially aggravated harassment against the then Labour MP Luciana Berger. Now, since leaving prison, he says his previous views were indefensible. He's completed a de-radicalisation programme and now delivers counter-extremism training. But his selection as a candidate sparked outrage. Luciana Berger said the case still haunts her, and she said she did not believe he should have any role in public life. But today, Bonehill Payne said he had decided to step aside. In a statement, he said, rather than standing as a local council candidate, I believe that my experience is better used supporting Kemi Badenoch in her ongoing mission to combat the anti-Semitism and extremism that is dividing our nation.
So there's quite a lot going on in that statement, isn't there? So he's not actually leading the Conservatives, and he may have been offered another role.
Yeah, that is right. He still remains in the party. The Conservative leader said she was sad that he wouldn't be given space to explain his position and represent his community. But in a statement, she said, if we are going to stop extremism and anti-Semitism, we are going to need help from those people who were part of the problem but have now changed and are being part of the solution.
And what have Jewish organisations been saying today about the whole story?
Well, Jewish organisations that we have spoken to say that they believe in rehabilitation, but argue that this case is different because of the severity of his past actions.
This is somebody who served time in prison for criminal convictions and was a former neo-Nazi. This is severe. This entire process and announcement has clearly caused pain and further suffering for his victims.
Now, the Jewish Leadership Council, who we just heard from then, said they will not meet with Joshua Bonehill Payne directly, but will meet with the Conservative Party to discuss the decisions made. A date has not yet been set for that, though.
Natalia, thank you very much for that update. Thank you.
Let's speak to Nick Hurdley. Nick, tell us more. What's not the ex-Conservative leader? It's not going to stand in any by-elections under any circumstances by any stretch. Today we understand that. And we've heard from Kemi Badenoch. She's not really happy with this situation. A lot of Conservative MPs, ministers are not happy about this situation because he was convicted of abusing and assaulting people. That's why he went down to prison for a sentence, but there doesn't seem to be any stretch going forward. Okay, Nick, thank you. Next, fires in Kyiv after deadly strikes for war in Ukraine continue to have a massive impact.
In what's being
Russia has attacked Ukraine with missiles, drones, killing at least 17 people on Ukraine's President Zelensky said Ibtipar could have saved lives in one of the deadliest strikes across Kyiv this year, which started after midnight on Wednesday, and at least 44 people were injured after residents, buildings, railway stations and warehouses were hit.
Described as one of the dead. What's being described as one of the deadliest assaults on Kyiv this year, Ukrainian officials say at least 17 people have been killed. The capital and the surrounding area came under sustained attack with a wave of Russian missiles and drones. Another 27 people were injured. The mayor of Kyiv, Vitaly Klitschko, says a warehouse was destroyed near the city centre. Witnesses reported explosions in the early hours of Wednesday after Ukraine's Air Force detected several incoming missiles. Both Ukraine and Russia have increased their long-range attacks in recent weeks as they target each other's infrastructure. While in Russia's Tula region, a logistics hub of the Russian online retailer Wildberries caught fire after a Ukrainian drone attack. Wildberries has seen more than a dozen of its facilities damaged in drone attacks recently. Our Ukraine correspondent Dan Johnson sent this update.
Ukraine's Air Force says 28 Russian ballistic missiles were detected in a wave that started just after midnight. The air raid sirens sounded, but there wasn't much time for people to take shelter because those ballistic missiles arrive so quickly, and they were not able to intercept any of them. It's not clear whether they tried and failed or whether they simply have no air defense missile interceptors left. President Zelensky has once again appealed for the supply of those Patriot missile interceptors to increase. He's been pleading repeatedly for more of those air defense missile interceptors, and he said that if they had been available last night, lives could have been saved. He's also called for further tougher sanctions on Russia to limit its ballistic missile capacity, because it was clear last night that Russia still is able to inflict damage and destruction right at the heart of the Ukrainian capital. We know that some postal and distribution warehouses were hit on the edge of the city. There were intense explosions and then the sight of fires around the edge of the city, and search and rescue teams are still at work searching for any of the survivors or the injured, and the death toll keeps increasing. It's not clear whether this was Russia acting in direct response for the attacks that Ukraine has been able to inflict on the distribution and warehouse centres of Russia's biggest online retailer, but there have been an increasing amount of long-range attacks over recent days, and Ukraine is counting the cost this morning.
President Zelensky has shared a video on social media of what appears to be a drone hunting down a man in southern Ukraine, saying it showed an instance of Russian safari attacks against civilians. The man escaped with multiple shrapnel wounds and concussion. The UN is warning of an alarming rise in civilian attacks in the war. Our diplomatic correspondent Paul Adams reports from Kyiv.
This is the moment a drone chases a Ukrainian vegetable seller in Kherson. The video was shared by Ukraine's President Zelensky, and a warning: what you're about to see is distressing. The man's name is Yuri. He says he was setting up his stall when the drone arrived and started chasing him. He says he even showed his vegetables to the drone to prove there was no reason to attack him. The drone hit his vehicle. Amazingly, he survived, and Yuri was left with shrapnel wounds. This is one of the most graphic examples of what Ukrainians call the human safari, where civilians, not soldiers, are tracked down and attacked by drones piloted from Russian positions across the river. People in Kherson have been living with this threat ever since the city was liberated at the end of 2022. The incident has been described as a barbaric war crime by Ukraine's foreign minister. President Zelensky said the world needed to see how Russian soldiers enjoyed killing and tormenting people.
So we can still see the smoke rising after the attacks that happened in the early hours of the morning and overnight in Kyiv, Russia's attacks on Ukraine. At least
17 people are known to have been killed in these attacks. This is one scene. At least 8 people were killed at a railway station in Brovary outside Kiev. There were 3 people killed at a Nova Poshta postal service hub inside Kiev itself. And as well as the railway station in Brovary, there has been a warehouse belonging to a major electronics retailer destroyed as well, Rozietka, just outside Kiev, and a food warehouse. So really devastating strikes by Russia on Ukraine. That is one aftermath, with smoke still rising.
At lunchtime in the heart of London's West.
Since leaving prison in 2018, Bonehill Payne says he spent years
radio this morning, but I think it was the strength of feeling, particularly among
Ukraine's President Zelensky has appealed to the UK and other allies to step up supplies of air defence missiles after 17 people were killed last night in another wave of Russian attacks hitting homes, a railway station and warehouses. The UK's new Defence Secretary, Wes Streeting, was in Kyiv today after the attacks and held talks with President Zelensky. Russian attacks are intensifying, with many more missiles launched at Ukraine, up 83% over the last 31 days compared with the same period in 2025. That's according to an analysis of Ukrainian Air Force data by BBC Verify. Over the same time, it found the proportion of incoming missiles Ukraine intercepted fell significantly from 2/3 to just under half. Dan Johnson reports.
Ukraine's capital endured one of its worst nights of recent bombardment. Waves of ballistic missiles which totally evaded Ukraine's depleted air defences. Warehouses were targeted, but homes were also hit.
The drone hit the roof, fully smashed the third floor. And
on the edge of Kyiv, Anastasia is wondering what happened to the top floor of her home.
It was so scary, I must say. This was my scariest night during the 5 years. My scariest night.
How do you feel that the Ukrainian air defences weren't able to intercept any missiles last night?
I gratefully thank you for all of them during these years, for all efforts they do to save me during these 5 years. It was my choice to buy a house near a warehouse, you know.
At the nearby railway station, 8 passengers were killed waiting for a train that was delayed by the air raid. There were 28 ballistic missiles fired by Russia last night, none of them intercepted by Ukrainian air defences. Is that because they've run out of interceptors? Is it because they're having to ration their supplies so carefully given the shortage? Ukraine's president has reiterated his plea for more interceptors.
We recognize that this is a major challenge. We made it through a difficult winter, but the reduction in supplies became more noticeable with each passing month. Today we are facing a clear shortage.
so nice to see you.
Visiting Kyiv today was Britain's new defence secretary.
We've been looking very closely at Ukraine's requirements. We're working through a whole list of those requirements. Where the UK has the ability to provide, we will. And where we don't, it's my job to mobilise the international community to step up.
Also burning last night was another warehouse belonging to Russia's largest online retailer. The Kremlin has accused Ukraine of targeting its civilians. A number have been killed in long-range drone attacks over the past week. That may be what prompted last night's Russian response, showing that it still has the ability to strike at the heart of Ukraine. Dan Johnson, BBC News, Kyiv.
The time is coming up to 6:20. Our top story tonight. A convicted former neo-Nazi withdraws as a councillor candidate for the Conservative Party after a backlash. And accidentally crashing into the moon. A piece from a SpaceX rocket made impact this morning.
And at 6:30 tonight, are you spending enough time outside? A new survey says that fewer people are getting outdoors every week. And the Lincoln City footballer thanking the UK for their help towards his Ukrainian homeland. Join us shortly here on BBC One for Wednesday's Look North.
There are growing concerns about how much control humans will have in the future over artificial intelligence. Now the government has revealed that two of the world's most powerful AI tools created fake human profiles.
A woman has been arrested after multiple people were stabbed in Covent Garden in central London. Metropolitan Police as a woman has been arrested as 4 people were stabbed in London today, while a reporter, Daniel Stramford, has the latest development from London. Daniel has his report.
woman has been arrested after 4 men were stabbed in Covent Garden in central London. The men, aged between 34 and 52, were taken to a major trauma unit, but have since been discharged from hospital. Sky's Amelia Harper joins me now. What more do we know?
Well, we know that this 47-year-old woman remains in police custody after those 4 men were stabbed. And the Metropolitan Police have given their ages. These men were 34, 39, 42 and 52, and they said that they were found with stab wounds, having been called at around 12:30 this afternoon. And those 4 men were taken to a major trauma centre, but we have actually just had an update on their injuries. So the police have said that 2 remain with injuries that are not believed to be life-threatening or life-changing, and the other 2 victims have since been discharged. In terms of the arrest, police say that this 47-year-old woman was arrested on suspicion of possession of an offensive weapon and assault. And police have stressed that, look, while this incident is in its early stages, their investigation is in the early stages, the force believes that this is a mental health-related, isolated incident, and they had said that a pair of scissors was also recovered from the scene. In terms of the emergency response, as you can imagine, it would have had a large emergency response. We can see in those pictures there was a large cordon put in place. Parts of that cordon have been being lifted over the last hour. We had a number of ambulance service vehicles, fast responders on scene. An air ambulance was also sent that landed in Trafalgar Square, but the air ambulance said that those victims were actually taken to be treated by road, so it has now taken off back again. And finally, police have said that while a slightly smaller cordon remains in the area, they will be on hand to speak to members of the public, and of course in a situation like this they will be looking to try to get as much info as possible.
Defending this controversial call.
4 men were stabbed at lunchtime in the heart of London's West End.
They would refuse to meet him. One of his victims, Luciana Berger, the Labour politician, saying rehabilitation was one thing, but standing for public office was another. So the Conservatives have been forced into this situation tonight. Kemi Badenoch says she's sad that Bonhill Payne won't get to represent his community. He will, though, be given that job as an advisor to her on tackling extremism, and that is already attracting some criticism tonight. Luciana Berger, one of those people who Bonhill Payne was convicted of racially harassing, has said giving him that advisory role is an insult.
Nick Eardley, thank you. A 47-year-old woman has been arrested after 4 men were stabbed at lunchtime in the heart of London's West End. The incident happened near Covent Garden, which was packed with tourists. 2 of the men remain in hospital and are being treated for injuries which are not life-threatening. Tom Simons reports.
Lunchtime in London's theatre district. Watched by dozens of office workers and tourists, 2 police officers aimed tasers in a standoff with this woman. They'd been called to a series of stabbings. At least 1 man had visible injuries. And then it was over. Police said a 47-year-old woman had been arrested. Eyewitnesses described shouting, people running down the road, what seemed to be a random attack.
A local business owner has told me how he came out of his shop and realised what was happening here on the street. He then came down the street to try to help. He said he grabbed the arms of the woman who was holding a large pair of scissors. He said she'd been trying to stab people. He then helped one of those who had been stabbed. He showed me pictures, a man in a blue shirt with lacerations and blood on his back.
Elsewhere, the crowds parted to allow London's air ambulance to take off from Trafalgar Square after supporting the medical response. 4 people were taken to hospital, 2 have already been discharged. The other 2 do not have life-threatening injuries. The investigation into what happened here is in its early stages, but police have described this as an isolated mental health-related incident. The woman arrested remains in custody.
I do know her.
You know her, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I know her walking, she's in the area every day. Yeah, I mean, I know her, she's homeless, and yeah.
And she lives in this area, or she's in a hostel?
She's in a hostel, I think.
This incident was a highly visible reminder of one of the biggest challenges for the police, dealing with mental health problems. The Metropolitan Police alone responds to tens of thousands of incidents each year. Tom Simons, BBC News, Covent Garden.
A man has been charged with the murder of a 9-year-old girl who was found with serious injuries on an industrial estate in Arbroath. Christopher Rice appeared in court this afternoon in connection with the death of Minnie Merriman. Minnie's family have paid tribute to her, saying they have been left devastated by her loss. Louise Cowie is in Arbroath. Tell us the latest, Louise.
Sophie, a Minnie Mouse cuddly toy, has been added to the floral tributes that have already been laid close to the spot where Minnie Merriman was found seriously injured.
All of us. In this neighbourhood, where I've been for 25 years, a lot of things have changed.
Football Association has already pledged its support to him. Afghanistan, and arrived in Greece as a refugee when he was 15.
Ahmadzai, who's 26 and from Afghanistan, faces charges of homicide with intent.
Must hope they can find a candidate that takes him on.
Dan, thank you. The man suspected of killing a Scottish aid worker in Greece has appeared in court in Athens. The body of Elizabeth Ross, known to her family as Lisa, was found in a suitcase in an abandoned building last month, days after she had been reported missing. Sharif Ahmadzai, who's 26 and from Afghanistan, faces charges of homicide with intent, robbery and weapons offences. Ben Phillip reports now from Athens.
This is the first time we saw the man suspected of killing Lisa Ross since his arrest in public. Handcuffed and wearing a tracksuit, Sharif Ahmadzai was ushered into a car by armed police. A short time later, the car arrived at the court in central Athens. Dozens of local and international journalists and cameras were waiting. Many people here are following this story closely. Lisa was found dead on the 18th of July. The 38-year-old's body was found in a suitcase in an abandoned building.
Ahmadzai was in court here for around 1 hour and 20 minutes. He was told he faces charges of homicide with intent, equivalents of a murder charge in the UK, robbery and weapons offences.
The 26-year-old was born in Afghanistan and arrived in Greece as a refugee when he was 15. He made no comments during the hearing and the case was deferred until Thursday. We managed to get close to him when he was leaving court. He kept his head down and had nothing to say as he was escorted back to custody. The derelict building where Lisa's body was found is just down the street from the court building. Locals here are still coming to terms with what's happened. Around the corner at this shop, we met the owner, Annie, who has been left feeling anxious.
The whole neighborhood is in major distress. Even the young children. My own daughter, who is 10 years old, is terrified and consumed by fear. The entire neighborhood is shaken up. Everyone, all of us. In this neighborhood, where I've been for 25 years, a lot of things have changed.
Lisa arrived in Greece in late June and stayed at these apartments close by. It's here police believe she died. Officers are investigating whether Ahmadzai had a key to the apartment. She had been volunteering with a refugee support group. Ahmadzai is a champion boxer. He runs a refugee charity with his American wife. Investigators are also looking into whether he already knew Lisa. Greek police claim that he took Lisa's body in a suitcase and left her here before using her bank cards to withdraw money, thought to be around €10,000. It's expected Ahmadzai will be formally charged when the case recalls. For now, the investigation remains ongoing to find out what happened to Lisa in the Greek capital. Ben Phillip, BBC News, Athens.
Ukraine's President Zelensky has appealed to the UK and other allies to step up supplies of air defence missiles after 17 people were killed last night in another wave of Russian attacks.
We removed the products after we contacted them. The upstage continued towards the moon. They didn't know at the time. It is all from the retail giant Amazon. It was listed under sport supplements. We also spotted ivermectin in 4-person. The medicine regulator told us it can take action, including a crimp.
Miles an hour.
prescription. Amazon removed the products after we contacted them and said it has measures in place to prevent prohibited products being listed by third-party sellers. But this afternoon, we found different listings showing both medicines still for sale under health and beauty products. We asked Jason Sarver, the Stairlift salesman, why he sold us the drugs. He didn't want to comment. Paul Heaney, BBC News.
A large piece of a SpaceX rocket that launched last year has accidentally crashed into the moon. The Falcon 9 blasted off last year, and part of it was being shed in space today as planned, but instead it went on a collision course with the moon, hitting it at more than 5,000 miles an hour. Palab Ghosh reports.
3, 2, 1, ignition.
In January last year, this rocket was launched to send a lander and a rover to the lunar surface. But the rocket itself wasn't supposed to land there too, let alone crash into it.
Supersonic.
A successful launch into the Florida night sky.
Confirmed.
Separation of the lower stage, while the upper stage continued towards the moon. They didn't know at the time it would end up being on a collision course. We don't have any pictures back yet. Here's what scientists think happened. The upper stage of the rocket crash-landed close to the Einstein crater, creating a new gigantic hole. It was travelling at 5,400 miles an hour. There was a brief flash, and a plume of rock and debris was sent up 100 kilometres into space.
This is like quite a rare chance to do more of a controlled experiment. We know exactly how big this thing is and how fast it's going, and so we can sort of look at the moon before and after and sort of really understand the impact that this thing had.
Orbiting spacecraft, such as NASA's Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, were not in the right position to capture the moment of impact. They'll send back pictures of the aftermath in the coming days.
The interesting thing will be seeing the images after the impact to see the size and shape of the crater, which is really going to help planetary geologists understand the type of soil or rock that the rocket actually impacted, and that will help our modelling of our understanding of other impacts on the lunar surface.
Ground-based telescopes, such as a very large telescope in Chile, may have pictures of the actual collision, but it'll be a challenge, even for telescopes as powerful as this one. But when these images come, they'll provide invaluable data for scientists.
By studying the light that is reflected from that material.
Let's have a look at the weather. Let's have a look at the weather. It's that for the UK, it'll be very cloudy with a few little patches of rain. Scotland got a patches of rain coming in, and northern England clear spells. Elsewhere, with isolated showers in the Northern Ireland, whereas Northern Ireland are going to see showers, less windy, fun for daytime. Tomorrow for Thursday, we'll see more settled day with some low cloud and a few light showers. However, it will turn dry, so tomorrow will be cloudy and rainy, but then it'll clear up and it'll be nice and sunny. The outlook for the weekend then, for Friday, it will be dry for most, with sunshine and a few areas of cloud breezing in the far northwest with spells of rain. Saturday with very sunny spells. That's it.
Hello there. We've seen a Hello there. We've seen a real day of strong blustery winds and sharp showers in Scotland and Northern Ireland. They will gradually fade away. Tomorrow, a quieter day for all. but a little bit cooler as well, even across England and Wales. So the showers will start to ease in intensity and they'll drift their way a little bit further south. We keep those clear skies across England and Wales, but because the wind direction is coming from a northwesterly, a much more comfortable night for getting a good night's sleep. Overnight lows in the southeast, 13 degrees. So into tomorrow, could be a cloudy start first thing, a cooler, fresher start, but high pressure building in from the southwest. So the cloud will break up, the sunshine will come through, the winds will be lighter, and any showers few in between. But more importantly, temperatures peaking about where they should be for this time of year. So that means in the southeast corner, that 22 or 23 degrees will feel very nice indeed. As we move out of Thursday into Friday, we keep the sunshine and we'll start to see warmth rebuilding a little across England and Wales. Lots of sunshine for Northern Ireland and Scotland with some showery outbreaks of rain just clinging on to the northwest of the Great Glen. Again, temperatures high teens, low 20s here